I think we're good. Okay, perfect. Hi, good evening, everybody. It is 6 o'clock, Tuesday, September 21st. And this time I'd like to call our meeting to order. This is our special meeting here tonight. Miss Julie, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. Spencer Anderson,
Present.
Amy Levy,
Here.
Sean Levy,
Here.
Megan Miller.
Present. Thank you very much, Ms. Dooley. At this time, we can approve the agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. That brings us to item 1D, approval of the minutes. At this time, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, approval of the minutes is unanimous. This time we are going to move to our main action item here, which is the swearing in of our appointed board member. Dr. Kieser.
All right. I have Miss Miller here, who is our notary, so she can administer the oath to our appointed board member, Greg Schneider. So,
Maybe by the microphone.
by the microphone.
All right, raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Greg Schneider,
having been appointed to the office of school board member,
having been appointed to the office of school board member,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right.
At this time, let's applaud our new board member. Congratulations, board member Schneider. Outstanding. Thank you so much for making us a little more complete. Awesome. We're going to move to item 3A, the election of officers. So, Mr. Schneider, if you'd like to join us. Perfect. So at this time, we have to elect a clerk and a treasurer. So at this time, I'll accept a nomination. You can self-nominate or nominate another board member for the office of clerk. I would like to nominate board member Levy for our clerk.
I accept.
Are there any other nominations at this time? All right, hearing none, by acclamation, are we okay with me appointing, or us by acclamation, Board Member Levy is now our clerk? Yeah. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So by acclamation, Board Member Levy is now our new clerk. Fantastic. So item 3B, election of treasurer. Would anybody like to make a nomination for treasurer?
I nominate Board Member Greg Schneider to be treasurer.
Board Member Schneider, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Are there any other nominations at this time? Hearing none, then by acclamation, Board Member Schneider, you are now our treasurer. Congratulations to our new board officers. And that takes us down to item 4A, which is committee appointments. So I have some suggested committee appointments, but let me know if you have a schedule conflict. So I'm going to start with teaching, learning, and equity. Treasurer Schneider, would you be interested in serving on the Teaching, Learning, and Equity and People Services Committee?
Yes, I would like to do that.
Fantastic. So that usually meets Tuesdays. Is it 5:30 typically? 5:30 on Tuesdays. Does that work for you?
Works fine.
First Tuesday.
That works fine.
Great. Okay. Also, Treasurer Schneider, are you, I was going to ask you if you'd also serve on the Policy Committee, which is it the first Wednesday? The first Wednesday, I believe it's 6 o'clock. 5:30 o'clock. Okay.
I will be glad to do that.
Thank you. Outstanding. Thank you very much for that. Board Member Anderson, are you comfortable serving then as Chair of the Business Finance and Operations Committee?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Okay, and I believe that wraps up committee appointments at this time, unless we could wait until we have 2 more board members, but while we're on a roll here, Board Member Schneider, would you be interested in serving on the Parks and Recreation Committee as our liaison from the district? Dr. Keiser, do you remember when they meet? No. I don't recall when they meet either. I think it's like once a month or once every other month with the city.
That would be fine.
All right, sounds good. So we'll put you down for that as well, now that we filled up your calendar. Okay. Yeah.
Since I moved from vice chair to chair of that committee, would
So so you get to appoint your vice chair. So at your next Business Finance and Operations Committee, we'll add that to the agenda that you can establish with Dr. Keiser, and then you'll appoint a vice chair at that time.
okay, cool. Just want to make sure.
No, that's a great question. Does anybody else have any other questions before we move on? Okay, that sounds great. Okay, at this time, it looks like we have completed our business for our special meeting. If there's no further business, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? I would just like to congratulate Board Member and Treasurer Schneider once again. We're very glad that you're here to join us. Thank you very much. All those in favor of adjourning at this time, please say aye.
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 We got it. Perfect. Any opposed? All right, at this time, it is 6:08 and our special meeting is now adjourned. All right, good evening, everybody. It is 6:30, Tuesday, September 21st, and at this time, I'd like to convene the Human Resources Committee. Ms. Dooley, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. Greg Snyder,
Present.
Megan Miller,
Present?
Sean Levy,
Present.
Amy Levy,
Here.
Spencer Anderson.
Here.
The roll shows all board members present.
Thank you very much. At this time, that takes us to item 1C, the approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda at this time?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Levy, second by Anderson to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion at this time? Hearing none, all of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, the agenda passes. Next, that brings us to item 1D, approval of the minutes. At this time, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion?
I do have one question. In the minutes, there is an item that actually happened in closed session, the approval of closed session minutes, and I'm wondering if those should be included in our open session minutes.
What we could do is we could approve the minutes excluding that piece. Does anybody else have any thoughts or comments on that point? Yes, so right now, the minutes that are posted for us to approve include the approval of the closed session minutes, which probably belongs in the closed session minutes, so I think that they're there erroneously. So what we could do is we could withdraw the motion to approve, or just amend the motion to approve the minutes as amended, which would be to remove that action item from the open session minutes. So since I've thoroughly confused you, what we could do is we could approve the rest of the minutes and just ask that we amend the approved minutes to not include the closed session part. Okay. Okay, or we can vote down the motion that's on the table to approve the minutes, which is fine, and then we'll just bring them back next time. Those are our options.
Yeah, let's vote down the approval of the minutes.
Any other discussion on the minutes?
I would just like to amend my motion, so we would be approving the Wednesday, September 8th Human Resource Committee minutes, excluding item 2C.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so we passed our second motion and sort of by acclamation, didn't do the first one. Okay, so that concludes item 1. Oh,
Sorry, we just approved the amendment, so now we need to go back to the original motion.
gotcha. Oh, okay, sorry, I got confused. Thank you. Okay, so all in favor of passing the original motion, which is to approve the minutes, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right. So that takes us to employment recommendations. Does anybody have any questions or discussion items for open session at this time?
I do. All right, I'd actually like to begin with Exhibit B. My concern is that when we look at the matrix, a lot of these positions are not included on the matrix, and I am hesitant to approve amounts if there's no documentation for how they're reproducible. So I can just kind of go down my list, and then if you have any questions, I'll start at the top. I see that the freshman football coach is prorated. The amount for a 1 year of experience should be $2,700.61. So I just want to confirm that that prorated is for approximately half of the season. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate.
Thank you so much. So I got it color coded. So for the ones that are not listed on the matrix at all, family engagement, APTT champion, intramurals for winter and spring, noon supervision, department chair, academy leader, and student council. So that's a little concerning. The intramurals for winter, it's $232, and for spring, it's $688, and I'm wondering, is there a reason for that difference?
Well, I'd first like to address the family engagement and things. Those are principal choice that they get 3 addendums per school that the principal can choose what they're going to use it. So it would fall into those elementary or intermediate school principal choice. So you won't see them on the matrix, but they would fall into those extracurricular activities. The spring, I believe his intramurals for spring, I'm going to have to double check that one.
Okay.
I don't have an answer on that one right away. I apologize.
No, you're fine. So here's my concern is I want to make sure that we are approving things that it's standard, everyone is treated the same, it's reproducible, we know who should be getting what. So if it's a principal choice, et cetera, if that could be noted on here somehow, and if we could get some background information on like if there's a range for those amounts so that we know that, yep, that's in the expected range, that's good to go. Again, for yearbook at Merrill, so on the matrix, yearbook is there for the high school, and it's 1,148. So I'm wondering if we have high school matrix for yearbook, why we don't have it for the elementary or the intermediate schools, because I have no idea if that amount is in line with what it should be.
Okay, there is a page on the matrix, and I don't have it up in front of me, but they have elementary schools for activities, which is the clubs and everything, and those are it's one standard stipend based on the years of experience in that group. So there, it's at the very bottom of Mr. Beard's matrix. I know there's 2 tabs, I believe. I don't have it in front of me to look at. But the 232 is the 0 years of experience with the elementary school. And that covers all of their activities. So student council, yearbook, whatever clubs they're doing, those are the rates that elementary stipends are paid.
So just for clarification, I actually do have the matrix in front of me, and I have the 3-page PDF. You're saying there's an additional tab that we need to be looking at?
Can I step up and see what you're looking at?
Yeah,
Oh, is it up there?
absolutely.
Okay.
That's just the PDF.
Yeah, there's another.
That's for high school.
You're missing a line item. We're going to get to the update. That's not the one that I have.
So, almost done. Next on the list. For class advisors, and this is the high school level, so it is included. The amount of 750 does not match any of the categories for years of experience, and this actually is included on the matrix. So that was a bit confusing to me. And then for the senior class, it looks like it's shared. And again, even if you add those two together, those amounts don't appear on the most current matrix.
Well, the two senior class advisors would be at 750. I need to pull my matrix. I apologize.
No, you're fine. And for, so on here it says 0 years of experience. Let me make sure. Actually, it's not listed, but for step 1, it's 460. For step 2, which is 1 to 2 years, it's 688. And then it jumps to 920. There is no category for $750.
Can we take them? I want to look at that real quick.
Sure.
Okay. I apologize. I do not want to
No, you're fine.
delay and hold everything up at this moment. I would request that I be able to take some time to look at this, and we can bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
Oops, no, we're good, we're good, we're good. Okay, that was easy. I thought it was me.
All right, looks like there was a little technical glitch, but I don't think we missed anything between now and then. Okay, so we have our question. I'm sorry, I got distracted by the disconnection. So just, are we good?
That concludes my open session questions. I do have a couple questions for closed session.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so that was a good discussion about addendum pay. Are there any other questions for open session at this time?
I do. Is
ahead.
part of the issue with this addendum pay about whether these activities are matching what was developed in the matrix that was approved earlier in the year? Because there were sports, and I seen it where we were handling the football coach issue. And so that was sports, and it seems like the sports were brought in line. But the question seems to be, were these other addendum positions brought into line also?
I think they're separate categories, so it seems like athletics and activities are included in the matrix, but there may be another category that's under the purview of the principal that's not included. So my concern is I don't have a good comparison for what's an appropriate amount because we just don't have enough information.
And I did find the matrix here, and I can do a printout if you want to allow me a minute to get all of you a printout. I think it will show the rates of what is here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Armstrong.
Okay.
We really appreciate that. And
I
yeah,
will be
take your time. No rush at all. It's cool. Okay, so again, great discussion about addendum pay. It sounds like we're going to get some more information shortly. While that's going on, does anybody else have any other questions for open session discussion at this time? So my question then to the board would be, it sounds like we have a closed session item. Do we want to go into closed session and then let Ms. Armstrong kind of get a minute here? We can come back to this discussion in open. Is that okay?
Well, one more question.
Oh, please, go ahead.
So the items that are being worked on for the Exhibit B, which are these addendum things, of course, we want to get business done, but there are no pending payments from these, like, because they have to complete the season or the activity for the year?
That's a great clarification. Ms. Armstrong, when do these payments take place?
No, none of these payments would be started until they're board approved. So athletics are always paid after their season, but until the board approves these addendums, they are not issued to the employee.
Right, because the year has started, no one's getting paid out for these, like, at the next check, are they?
No,
Okay, so kind of like in handling this tonight, you know, we could continue as, you know, you're going to try to get this done by closed session, or we can just, it can come, you know, it's a matter of how we choose to handle it. We got time. I'm just saying.
We do, absolutely. And I think let's give Ms. Armstrong a minute. We can come back to it after closed session, and then we can kind of determine our course, I think, at that time, if that's okay with everybody. But yeah, certainly that's an option. All right, great discussion. Anybody else have anything for open session at this time? Okay, hearing none, would anybody like to make a motion to go into closed session at this time?
I move to convene the Human Resources Committee into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C of the Wisconsin State Statutes relative to considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
Second.
All right, I was about to ask, is there a second? All right, motion by Clerk Levy, second by Vice President Levy. Ms. Dooley, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Spencer Anderson,
Aye.
Amy Levy,
Aye.
Sean Levy,
Aye.
Megan Miller,
Aye.
Greg Snyder.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So at this time, folks who are here, we're going to step into the other room. Folks who are watching at home, we will be back when we're done with closed session, and we will return to the open session discussion part of Human Resources Committee. Thank you very much. All right, the time is 6:59. We are reconvening into open session. This is the Human Resources Committee meeting. We convened into closed, we're back, and we're revisiting an item that came up earlier in open session, now that Ms. Armstrong has had a few minutes to get some information together. So I'm just going to turn it right over to you, Ms. Armstrong.
Thank you. So for clarity, the matrix that was approved by the board did include the elementary and intermediate schools. It was approved at the board May 11th of 2021. And that did include those elementary club advisors or clubs and activities, starting at 232 and going up to 1148, depending on years of experience. So I did share that document now with all board members, and that provides some of the clarity that we're looking at. I still do want to look at that intramural. The noon supervisions and the department chairs, those are district addendums that are issued. It's a set rate, and those are not contained in the matrix.
Thank you very much for that additional information. I'm wondering if for the next Human Resource Committee meeting, if we could just have the updated or whatever, like most accurate, most recent matrix just as an attachment with everything, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
I do have one other question just for confirmation. The link crew amount, it said it's shared. Is that shared with one other person or two other people?
I don't think the other individuals came forward yet, so I don't know if they're splitting it half or by quarter. Sometimes it's a third. You're going to do it for one semester, you're going to do it the other. I don't have that here.
I'm assuming it's being split between 3 people because that would give you the amount of 382.67. But I'm wondering why the 2 other people aren't listed in the recommendation.
They probably have not returned their interest form. So, you know, these come in as we get the recommendation from the principal. They have to send them back saying they want to accept it. And then it would come here for the board approval before it would actually be issued for any payment or approval of the action. Sorry, my voice is getting crazy.
Perfect. And you'll get back to us with the intramurals for winter and spring to let us know why there's a
Yep,
difference.
absolutely. So I would recommend taking those 2 off for tonight.
Thank you.
I tend
Thank
to
you very
believe it's a typo, but I will double check because he's on there twice. I think they carried things.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just thank you very much, and thanks to both of you. It was a great discussion. Does anybody else have any questions or discussion on the employment recs? Okay, hearing none at this time, would anybody like to make a motion regarding, I believe it's item 2B, the exhibits A and B?
I move approval of employment recommendations A and B minus extracurricular items.
Second.
All right, there is a motion and a second to approve exhibits A and B without the, excluding the extracurricular items on exhibit B. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay,
Can I ask for one clarification?
absolutely.
Are we taking off all extracurriculars or just the intramurals that we are in question?
My motion is to remove all extracurriculars because I would like to make sure that we are approving the correct thing, and in order to do that, I need additional information.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussion at this time? Okay, hearing none, unless did I miss anything? Hang on, nope. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. I believe that, unless there are any other motions, does anybody want to make about employment recs? Okay, that does conclude section 2 of our agenda, employment recommendations. That brings us to item 3A, the next meeting date. And I don't see one in there, so I'm just going to assume that our next HR committee meeting will be held, is it October 5th, our next board meeting? On October 5th at 6:30 PM. So we'll update that in board docs in case you want to look later, but if you're tuned in now, the next Human Resource Committee meeting, which is a full board committee, will be on October 5th at 6:30 PM. Any other business before we adjourn? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor to adjourn, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Let's take do we need like a quick recess before the regular board meeting? Let's take a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 7:10 for the regular board meeting. Thank you.
My mic on.
My name is Sean, and I am the Vice President of the Board and the Chairperson of the Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Service Committee. Yep. So my name is Sean. I'm the Vice President of the Board. I'm the Chairperson of the Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Service Committee. Oh, EQUITY. I think, yeah. Yep, Equity, EQUITY.
You know what? I will. I don't want to go kill you.
Yep. Chairman Schneider. Introducing ourselves to Mr. James.
Hello, I'm Greg Schneider, Treasurer of the board.
Sean, do you want to just take 2? I'll just take
Now, yeah, now, Mr. James, you're working, this is for government, a government class? Civic participation, you got to come to the meetings, you got to vote. Mhm. There are so many other ways to participate in democracy beyond voting.
You could join a city commission as well. Okay, so I think that concludes our recess, and it is 7:10 p.m. or 7:11 p.m. Tuesday, September 21st. Now, before I call the meeting to order, I do want to take a moment to recognize a former educator passed away, I think today, Mrs. Phyllis Farnham. And I reached out to somebody, yes, and I reached out to somebody on Facebook, Miss Sandy Schmidt, sent me some information I just want to share quick before we call the meeting to order in honor of Mrs. Farnham. They think that she taught PE in the district for around 40 years. She also coached when girls' sports were in their initial stages, so a trailblazer. Above all that, she was a champion and advocate for all students, especially those who struggled in school or home life. So many adults in this community could share stories on how Mr. and Mrs. Farnham helped them. She does say that Sean Levy attended Aldrich while she was there. So we just wanted to take a moment and recognize that very big loss to our community.
If I could,
Please,
for a minute.
please, of course.
One of the things that, so Mrs. Farnham, a very important person, like the way that we talk about the impact that educators can have on student lives. Ms. Farnham and her husband, just off of 81, way up there, they had a farm, and so many young men like myself worked on the farm, let us drive the truck, gave us food, we cleaned out the chicken coop, rode horses, cleaned out the horse barn, and like I said, just in her work with very important person.
Thank you for sharing. That's really kind and just sounds like a major loss, and glad that we took a moment to honor her name this evening. So at this time, I'd like to call our regular business meeting to order here at 7:13. Ms. Dooley, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. Megan Miller,
Present.
Greg Snyder,
Present.
Spencer Anderson,
Present.
Amy Levy,
Here.
Sean Levy.
Present.
The roll shows that all members are present.
Thank you. Also, the Board of Education would like to let our families and viewers know that our regular board meetings are being simultaneously interpreted. You can watch the Spanish interpreted meeting through the link found at the board website under the Watch Meetings tab with tonight's date. In order to accommodate this interpretation, we will be monitoring the pace of our meeting to allow time for the interpretation, and I would like to remind our board members and others speaking to please speak one at a time. Thank you so much for your consideration and understanding. At this time, we are at item 1C, the approval of the agenda. I have a couple of things I'd like to change quick. If we could remove item 3B, because there was, B as in boy, because there was not a meeting for the Teaching, Learning, Equity, and People Services Committee. And prior to the meeting starting, Board Member Anderson asked if we could move item 7A after 5G so that we can give future board meeting dates prior to going into executive session. That way we'll adjourn right from closed session and we will not be returning after that time, just to be more respectful of our viewers. Are there any other changes at this time? Good. Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I move to approve as amended.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any other discussion at this time? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously, and that brings us to the pledge. Board Member and Secretary Schneider, would you keep your mic on and lead us in the pledge, please? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and I would again like to congratulate Board Member Schneider on his very first board business meeting as a newly elected or appointed and sworn-in board member tonight. That brings us to 2A, public comment. Do we have any public comments this evening?
We do.
All right, so before we hear our public comment, is there anybody here in person wishing to speak?
I haven't been given any cards so far.
Okay, it looks like we at least have one, so I'm going to prioritize whoever's here in person. While you guys are getting that in order, I'm just going to read our policy. Norms for public comment. Citizens are welcome to attend all open meetings at the Board of the Board of Education. Robert's Rules of Order will be followed at all times. Persons attending board meetings are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful and courteous manner that models appropriate behavior for our students. Persons wishing to comment are expected to comply with the following norms in order to maintain a respectful and orderly meeting and to protect all persons, including members of the public, district employees, and district students from personal attacks or discussion of confidential matters in a public forum. Comments should be directed to members of the Board of Education and not district employees, students, or other members of the public in attendance at the meeting. Comments that attack any individual personally or professionally or are derogatory or demean others will not be tolerated. Personnel matters or concerns regarding specific district personnel are not appropriate topics to be addressed during an open meeting and should be handled in accordance with district policy and procedures. Concerns or questions regarding students will not be allowed. Comments regarding another individual's membership in a legally protected class, i.e., race, sexual orientation, religion, etc., is strictly prohibited. Response from the board will be limited to clarifying inaccurate information, seeking additional information from the citizen, or acknowledging that the citizen has been understood. The board will not debate with the citizen, and the board may not take action on an item raised during public comment that is not on the meeting notice or agenda. The chair will interrupt and rule a citizen who violates any of these norms out of order. If ruled out of order by the chair, the person's opportunity to address the board will end immediately and the microphone will be turned off. A citizen who violates these norms may be restricted from making public comments at future meetings. Okay, so whoever's here in person, do you want to take the mic?
Okay, we have President Kurt Hendrich of 740 Grant Street speaking on BEA and longevity pay.
Thank you.
That better? Oh, good. So my name is Kurt Hendrick. I'm here. I live at 740 Grant Street, as was stated, and I'm here in my role as the organizing chair of the Beloit Education Association. On behalf of the BEA, we want to thank you for your willingness and Dr. Keezer's to work together with us for the betterment of our students. We greatly appreciate how we've been able to work together during the COVID-19 pandemic to be certain that our students, families, and staff have safe learning and working conditions. In the past year, our organizing team has met with over 200 educators, counselors, therapists, and other staff to build relationships, to hear what's going well, and to hear what the concerns are. One issue that we repeatedly heard appreciation for was the increase in starting pay for new hires that has encouraged educators to start their careers here. At the same time, we have also heard frustrations from educators who came here when the starting pay was not so competitive, but chose to come here because they felt this was the community that they wanted to serve, yet who did not benefit to the same extent as new hires have. After serving here 4, 5, or 6 years, they received a raise in pay, but found that raise only brought them to the level of a first-year educator. Additionally, the issue of longevity includes a much larger group of professional educators than those serving for those 4 to 6 years, because longevity was eliminated by the district in 2010. It is our hope that together we can address this issue by working to honor those educators and their longevity in our district. Bringing new educators to our community is important, but retaining gifted educators is even more important. The skills, experience, and commitment of educators who have chosen to make this district their home as educators needs more than simple words of appreciation, as important as that is. Like all professionals, commitment is honored by both words of appreciation and financially. Our goal is that we can help encourage our gifted educators to make Beloit their long-term education home in the same way that we have encouraged them to start their careers here. On behalf of the BEA, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else present that wanted to make a public comment? All right, Ms. Dooley, if you want to go ahead with the emails then.
Yes, we have a couple of previous emails as we didn't have a meeting last week. The first one is dated September 1st, and it's by Rachel Riley. And Ms. Riley states the following. My family is new to Beloit. From what I can see so far, this district is utterly disorganized, chaotic, and nonsensical. We live 2.1 miles from McNeil Intermediate School, yet my children do not qualify for a bus, even though the limit for the bus is 2 miles. It is a 42-minute walk down major roads for a 5th grade girl in a Wisconsin winter. This is utterly unacceptable. I have called the school district and was told it was at the discretion of the bus company. I called the bus company and was told it was at the discretion of the school district. I was transferred to someone else, got voicemail, and have yet to receive a call back. School is supposed to start today, according to the calendar, but it will be Friday before they are able to start, and I don't even know why this is the case. I am not even sure what time, all caps, school starts. I have been given so little information and so many promises of, quote, callbacks, end quotes, and have not received anything yet. No one has bothered to inform me of any other options my family has, such as other schools, in parentheses, maybe closer schools, close parentheses. First impressions of Beloit School District are terrible. As a parent, I'm wondering if my kids can't teach you a thing or two about organization and common sense, period.
Thank you very much. Next one, if you could.
Okay, our next one is from Amy Lannon, and Ms. Lannon reads, Good evening. I hope you all are doing well. Oh, I'm sorry, hers is dated September 7th. I hope you all are doing well. Thank you for taking the time to hear me out tonight. I do know the request for naming the BMHS Art Wing for Bob Houck is on the agenda for this evening. I cannot fully express my gratitude. Mr. Houck was an inspiration to so many people, students, fellow teachers, family, and friends, not only as a teacher, but as a coach. From talking to his past students and friends, he was able to pull greatness out of people, even if they didn't draw a stick. When Mr. Houck passed away and we posted his obituary, the outpour of love, sadness to funny stories from decades of students, those he coached as well as graduates and colleagues filled the comment section. Naming the Art Wing after Bob isn't just about a name. It is giving students and future staff something to aspire to be. Kind, loving, accepting, inspirational, to help those who may not know what potential they have and give them a chance. Bob was passionate about many things. I personally feel, along with many others, that this is the best way to honor such a great man. Thank you for your time. Angie Lennon, 1674 Prairie Avenue.
Thank you so much. Was there another one?
There is one more.
Okay.
The last one that I have is from T. Johnson. Dear members of the Beloit Board of Education, oh, and this one is also dated September 7th, I apologize. Dear members of the Board of Education, I am writing to support the utilization of Policy 950 and the accompanying Rule 1 to explore naming the Beloit Memorial High School Art Department and Physical Wing in honor of an exemplary educator who passed away earlier this year. Specifically, I have received multiple contacts from former colleagues, students, and family members of Mr. Robert Houck. Mr. Houck dedicated 33 years of his life to the school district of Beloit as a professional educator in the art department at BMHS. To this day, Mr. Houck's legacy as an outstanding educator, coach, extracurricular advisor, committee, volunteer, and prominent mentor to scores of Beloit youth is held in the highest regard. When Bob Houck is discussed, it is nearly impossible to find anyone who doesn't light up with affection for the legend himself. I wholeheartedly endorse Mr. Houck's posthumous naming nomination and be entered into consideration under the aforementioned policy through the prescribed ad hoc process. You don't need to travel far in the annals of Beloit Memorial High School history to learn about the character, commitment, and high esteem Mr. Houck earned in his decades of service to our community. Suffice to say, Mr. Houck remains an enigma and giant in BMHS history, marked by his uniqueness, masterful student-centered focus, and abundance of positive relationships with those around him. I believe that if the board considered utilizing Policy 950 to explore an ad hoc committee, you would be flooded with letters and testimony in support of Mr. Houck's nomination resoundingly. The policy at hand, along with the accompanying rule, details specifically what a memorialized tribute would look like should you reach that point. This would be an excellent way to inspire young people as they traverse the halls of the high school campus while also honoring an exceptional friend to the Beloit schools. I enthusiastically join the chorus of others seeking utilization of Policy 950 and Rule 1, thereby opening the door for such an honor to a deserving individual. I look forward to sharing additional information about this potential nominee within the policy's respective timeline and ad hoc process. I appreciate your consideration tonight as you explore and discuss this agenda item further. Respectfully submitted, Dr. Thomas Johnson, Beloit.
Thank you so much. All right, were there any other public comments at this time? Okay, then that closes out item 2, and that brings us to kind of section 3, committee and other board reports. Business Operations and Finance Committee, Chair Anderson, did you have anything to share?
I can give a quick recap since we didn't have our meeting last 2 weeks ago. So during our meeting, we covered the financial reports for July 2021, and then we also discussed the future planning of our district, and we also covered the Executive Director of Human Resource FTE, which is on our agenda item tonight.
Perfect, thank you so much. That brings us then to item 3C because we removed 3B when we approved the agenda, the governance board update. We had a very in-depth, thorough, and I'll editorialize, very inspiring discussion about strategic planning at the it was great at the governance board meeting. I look forward to sharing out more details as that moves forward, and I'm not sure when our next meeting will be, but we will post it when it occurs, and we'll have even more wonderfulness to report then. All right, Board Member Levy, you are also our legislative liaison. Do you want to give your update?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Dooley, for getting that report attached. Much appreciated. I will just give a top-line summary. As far as the Assembly Committee on Education, the next hearing notice is tomorrow, Wednesday, September 22nd at 11 a.m. in room 412 East, if anyone is interested. The agenda items for that hearing tomorrow morning, I will briefly go through. AB, or Assembly Bill 411, addresses anti-racism and anti-sexism pupil instruction and anti-racism and anti-sexism training for employees. Assembly Bill 420, which addresses payments to an independent charter school authorized by tribal colleges. Assembly Bill 488, requiring school boards to make information about learning materials and educational activities used for pupil instruction available to the public. Assembly Bill 560, which is actually new on the roster. All of the previous ones have been in committee for at least a month or longer. Assembly Bill 560 addresses human growth and development instruction programs. Assembly Bill 561, which addresses school boards, requiring school boards to report information regarding credit recovery courses. 2 more. Assembly Bill 562, which addresses gender equity and sexual orientation programs in public schools. And last but not least, Assembly Bill 563, which addresses requiring instruction in civic engagement in the elementary and high school grades, high school graduation requirements, and requiring the exercise of rulemaking authority. So if you are interested in hearing more on any of those, there is a executive session going on tomorrow for the State Senate Committee on Education. There are no upcoming hearings scheduled. And again, that report is posted in board docs.
Thank you very much. If you want to take us to item 3E.
Yes, so for the Policy Committee, a few updates. Policy 113, which you find on the agenda tonight. I am certain everyone has had an opportunity to review that. We will discuss it briefly in a moment. The major change to that is the informal resolution process is outlined at the end of that policy. There are a few different categories of policies that were placed on hold for different reasons, so I'll just reiterate those briefly. The following group of policies were discussed and placed on hold until we can review the policies with the completed hiring guide that the administration team is currently working on. So those policies include 221.1, recruitment and appointment of administrative staff, Policy 533, employment, recruitment, and hiring, Rule 1 of that policy, and also Rule 2 of said policy, Policy 543, support staff recruiting and hiring, and Policy 552, administrative support staff and hiring. Policy 533, Rule 3, employee compensation, was placed on hold until the compensation audit can be completed. We thought it was prudent to review that with the other documentation. And as a preview, the Policy Committee will meet on Wednesday, October 6th at 5:30, and we'll be reviewing the following policies: 222.1, administrative staff absence, Rule 1 of that policy, 532, professional educator leaves and absences, the rule that goes with that, support staff leave and absence, the rule. Also, non-paid short-term leave of absence for support staff, and policy 556.2, the same, but addressing administrative support staff. So I said that because we are currently in a pandemic. I am sure a lot of professional educators, administrators, and support staff have questions about those policies. So if you do have questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out so that we can get those addressed at the committee meeting.
Thank you very much. All right. That brings us to, Section 4, action and discussion items. So item 4A is Policy 113, Student and Employee Sexual Harassment Policy, second reading. Does anybody have any questions, discussion, or would anybody like to make a motion at this time on item 4A?
One adjustment, which may have already happened, but we there is a spot for the human resource director. So I would recommend that we remove that until that position is filled.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, discussion? Or would anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we approve policy 113 as amended with the stipulation that the administration may update the Title IX contact information whenever necessary by notifying the policy committee of the change without the need to bring the policy back to the board for approval.
Great, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Dooley, did you need any of that repeated? You're good, okay. Does anybody have any questions, discussion items? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That brings us next to item 4B, the Executive Director of Human Resource. Dr. Keyser, go ahead, please, if you want to talk about that.
Thank you, Board President Miller. Tonight I bring forward from the Business Committee the recommendation for the full board to consider approving a 1.0 FTE for the purposes of hiring an Executive Director of Human Resources. This has been in committee for the past month, and to summarize what has already been shared to this full board from the committee reports is that the 1.0 would in effect add a new piece to the org chart. When you take a look at the org chart, which is something that I've shared in the past, we are really only talking about the far right side where it says Executive Director. All the grayed area boxes are conversations that I had brought before the board as potential areas of expansion. And for this purpose, in this conversation, this motion, we're only talking about that top gray area, the Executive Director of Human Resources. Currently, in the structure, we had a Director of Human Resources. That position is now vacated, and it provides us with a unique opportunity to actually strategically, if the board approves this 1.0, to create a human resources department that has both a strategic visioning component in the executive director and a technical detailed analyst in the director of what I'm calling staff relations. The reason why separating out these roles is really in supporting the not only recruitment, but the retention and longevity of our employees. When we think about the employee life cycle, it starts with the idea of recruitment, and in that life cycle, it goes all the way through to when that employee retires from the district. And that cycle is not simply owned by HR, but is actually facilitated in collaboration with every single other department within the district, from recruitment to onboarding to development, the retention, and then ultimately the exiting of that employee through retirement. The Executive Director of Human Resources, it would be charged with some very high-level strategic visioning pieces. Not only are they a member of the executive team and someone that works side by side with me, their role would be the overall recruitment strategy, owning with myself and the other executive directors the commitment to the diversity within our district, working with our departments to fill and support things like DLI and our other hard-to-fill positions like special ed and CTE. Overseeing the entire hiring and retention of staff process, nurturing and committing to that diversity of staff. So within our board goals around diversity and the diversity report that we provide annually and then quarterly updates, those are pieces that this individual will take point on. as well as partnering and cultivating that staff development. So when we think about that ongoing support, this is not only about having them on within our district, but then working in collaboration with the Teaching and Learning and Equity Department on the educator effectiveness for our professional staff, and really making sure that those two pieces are working in hand in hand, that we are providing quality feedback and supervision of our staff, as well as cultivating their passions and giving them opportunities to grow and thrive within our organization. They will be working with our schools in that enrollment-driven staffing plan, and they also become our records custodians for our employee files and open records. When you look at the positions side by side, currently, with just that one director of HR position, all of these bullet points are owned by that individual. And now, as I have highlighted the left-hand side with the executive director, that director now is able to focus in on the technical aspects of a human relations department, which is about being the Title IX coordinator, investigating those employee complaints and handling any grievance procedures, maintaining and updating the employee handbooks with gathering stakeholder feedback, and collaborating with the departments around educator effectiveness and so forth. Together, these two positions end up forming a dynamic team that will help not only grow our employees, but also provide better oversight and support for our staff, both on an onboarding as well as a retention standpoint. I really look towards having the executive director being hired first, and then having that individual being directly involved with hiring the director and any other HR positions that may be open at that time. So with that, I open it up for questions and comments.
Thank you so much for putting this together, Dr. Kieser. Board members, if you have a burning question, go ahead and drop a question mark in the chat. Otherwise, I think I'm just going to kind of go around. Board Member Schneider, did you have a question or comment, or do you want me to come back to you?
I don't have a question at this point, but just my comments would be that we have to be very cautious when we're considering adding administrative positions to assure that we're meeting the needs of the students. You know, every position added to the district reduces the money that's available to provide support for the students' needs. But also in saying that, I recognize that recruiting, hiring, and maintaining staff is continuing to get more and more difficult. I think that our students truly deserve to have someone whose job is focused directly on getting and retaining the best teachers and staff possible to help them to succeed. And with that, just to say that to thank Joanne Armstrong for all the work that she has done in this area as being the head over several large departments. While she's done a great job, we need somebody who's truly focused just on the human resources part.
Thank you so much, Board Member Schneider. Board Member Vice President Levy, did you have any questions or comments?
I've spoken to this many times as this item has been presented, that it's important for our district to be structured appropriately with the positions. I know this is not directly related to this position, but also the Director of Equity is a position I'm looking to see come back also. When I look at the reason for this, I know that there was an administrative reorganizing by the board prior as positions were broken up and everyone was given an equity title, but that doesn't mean that all that equity work is still taking place. So, and I know there's been some comments in the community about, do people understand what's happening? What's happening is we're trying to reorganize as it is our prerogative.
Thank you for your comments. Board Member Levy, did you have anything?
I'm good, thank you.
Board Member Anderson?
I'm also good.
All right, well, my only comments that I had were just kind of to reiterate what's already been said. I'm happy to see us reorganizing in a way that's intentional around retention and kind of doing what's best, I think, to keep our teachers in our district. So I know that there were some questions that were, I received earlier today where people were concerned about budgets and enrollment and how things were paid for. I just want to clarify that, is it on October 5th that we're going to get a presentation about that?
Correct. We'll have a overview of school budgeting followed by a preliminary budget presentation. Correct.
So on October 5th, we'll get more of, because I don't want to put anybody on the spot tonight, but I did want to raise the question since people reached out. So on the 5th, we'll hear more about kind of how things are budgeted, how enrollment numbers play into those budgets, and how things are paid for. And then, so thank you for that. Go ahead, please.
And so the timing of this is such that it ends up being, if approved, will be built within the budget. So it's not added, it's not in addition to the budget that has been adopted, because the budget won't be formally adopted until the end of October.
Perfect. Okay, so it's not like an extra expense. It's all built into what our operational situation is at the moment?
Correct.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying that. And then I just, I don't want to get off the topic, but we do have a public hearing for the budget before it's approved, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there'll be more information about that too for anybody maybe here or who's watching at home. If they have additional questions, definitely feel free to submit your own questions, comments, or thoughts on that going forward. So yeah, I just want to thank you very much for bringing this forward, and I agree. I think this is a very wise move for our district. Does anybody else have any questions, thoughts? Would anybody like to make a motion at this time?
I move approval of the 1.0 FTE for the purpose of posting an Executive Director of Human Resources vacancy.
Second.
Sorry, we have a motion by Clerk Levy, second by Anderson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously, which takes us then to item 4C.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you very much. And thanks for everybody who worked on that presentation and on that idea. So item 4C is we received some public comments about that. We received an email from a community member asking that we rename the art wing in honor of Bob Hawk due to the amazing impact he made on so many lives in our school community and community as a whole. So the ask here would be to activate policy 950 and 950 rule 1 to create an ad hoc committee to review and explore this request. So is there any discussion on this? So if there's no discussion, I would entertain a motion, if we'd like to do so, to activate policy 950, 950 rule 1 to create an ad hoc committee to review and explore the request to name the art wing in Bob Hawk's honor.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Schneider, second by Board Member Anderson to do so. All right. Any other discussion? Great. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion passes unanimously. So at an upcoming board meeting, then we will be appointing committee members. If you are interested, you can email, if you're interested in serving on the committee. I think we can appoint up to 2 community members. I think a couple of administrators. There are people who work in the building. So just go ahead and email the board if you're interested, and we'll go forward from there. All right. Any other business in action and discussion items that we missed? Okay. That brings us to item 5, our consent agenda. At this time, would a board member like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will take a motion at this time to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. So all the items that are in the consent agenda then would be passed. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, so all of those items then in the consent agenda under Section 5 are passed and approved. Thank you. Per Board Member Anderson's request, at this time I'm jumping down to item 7A, future board meeting dates. So our next Business, Operations, and Finance Committee will be on October 5th at 5:30 p.m. Human Resources Committee of a whole meets October 5th at 6:30 p.m. Our next regular board meeting will be October 5th at 7 p.m. And again, that is the board meeting where we'll hear a lot more about our budget if you are interested. Teaching, Learning, Equity, and People Services Committee will then meet on October 19th at 5:30. Human Resources, October 19th at 6:30. And then our next regular board meeting will be October 19th at 7 p.m. Are there any questions or discussion here or anything we overlooked? Okay, so hearing none, at this time, I'm about to ask for a motion to go into closed session. That does conclude all of our open session business for this evening. Board members, would anybody like to make a motion to go into closed?
I move that we convene the Board of Education into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85 paren 1 paren G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategies to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Schneider, second by Vice President Levy. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Dooley, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Greg Snyder,
Aye.
Sean Levy,
Aye.
Megan Miller,
Aye.
Amy Levy,
Aye.
Spencer Anderson.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dooley, and thank you for all those who attended this evening, and thank you for all of you at home who tuned in. Have a good evening.